Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos. This is called Fly Away Home. It's 12-inch finished. Here's the diagram. We have flying geese and half square triangles. Here are 4 blocks set block to block, and this is a 3x3 irregular grid. That means that one or more grid spaces are different sizes. So we have these large size here, which are 4.5-inch finished, and here, so that's 9 inches, and that means that this grid is 3 inches wide because it's a 12-inch block. Patch A is a 4.5-inch finished half square triangle. We cut 5 3/8-inch squares and cut it in half once diagonally for 2 patches. We need 4 patches of the background and 4 patches of the dark fabric. These are for the large half square triangles in the corners. Patch B is 1.5-inch finished half square triangle. We cut 2 3/8-inch squares, cut them in half once on the diagonal for 2 patches. And we'll need 24 patches of the background. That is the sky portion of the flying geese. And there are 12 flying geese in this block. Patch C is a 3-inch finished quarter square triangle. We've cut 4 1/4-inch squares, cut it in half diagonally twice for 4 patches. And we'll need 4 patches each of the dark, medium, and light fabrics. And these are the geese portion of the flying geese. Patch D is a 3-inch finished square. We cut 3.5-inch square, and we need 1 patch. That is the very center unit. We have AccuQuilt dies will cut all of these patches. Here are the cutting instructions, and I've included the exact size to cut these half square triangles or to cut them larger and trim down later. For the half square triangles, we're going to do 2 at a time, and for the flying geese, we're going to do 4 at a time. Here are the fabrics. These are for the half square triangles in the corners. These are the 4.5-inch finished half square triangles. We'll do those 2 at a time. These are for the geese portion of the flying geese units, and we're going to make 3 sets of 4 for a total of 12 flying geese units. These are the sky portion of the flying geese units, and I've cut these larger. These were cut larger as well. For the flying geese, when we're cutting them larger, we do not cut the geese portion larger. We just cut the sky portion larger. And this is the square for the center. So we're going to start by making half square triangles 2 at a time. If you're not familiar with the method, here's a short tutorial. On the back side of the light fabric, we're going to draw a diagonal line, put the fabrics together, right sides together, and we're going to stitch on either side of the diagonal line. Here is the stitching on both sides. Now we cut this in half along the diagonal line. Then we have our 2 half square triangles. Press the seams open and cut off the nubs. When the half square triangles are finished, you'll need to trim them to 5 inches. Next, we're going to take all of our B and C and make 12 flying geese, and we're going to do 4 at a time. So we'll take 1 of the geese squares and 4 of the sky squares, make 4 flying geese units for these, and then another 4 for this one and another 4 for this one. So if you're not familiar with the flying geese 4 at a time method, here's a short tutorial. For flying geese 4 at a time, you need 1 large square and 4 small squares. The large square is the geese part of the flying geese, and the small squares are the sky part of the flying geese. On the back of each of the small squares, draw a diagonal line. Place 2 of the small squares, like this, on the large square, right sides together. You line up these edges and make sure these lines line up. Then you're going to stitch 1/4 of an inch on both sides of that drawn line. Here are the 2 stitching lines on either side of the marked line, and now we cut it in half on the marked line. Now you'll open these up and press your seams open on both sides. Cut off the nubs. Now you'll place another square in this corner. Here's your diagonal line, and stitch on either side of the diagonal line. And do that for both of these. Your stitches should come out or start right at this point, this intersection here, this 90-degree angle. Cut this in half on the diagonal line, and you have these 2. Press your seams open and cut off your nubs. And do the same for this one. 4 flying geese. When the flying geese are stitched and pressed, you'll need to trim it down to 2 inches by 3.5 inches. Put your ruler down, and since you did not cut the geese portion larger, it should be really close to 3.5 inches wide, and it is. Hold it there, and then we're going to look at this intersection here, the corner of the unit where the 2 fabrics go into the corner. And you want to make sure that that's right on the 2-inch mark. And the same thing over here, right on the 3.5 inch mark. Then you want to make sure that the 1/4 inch mark is right on the tip of this point. But I'm going to move it up just a little bit, just for extra. And now we can trim the top and the side. There's not much to trim on the side, but go ahead and trim it anyway. Now we'll turn this around. Now we'll measure 3.5 inches here and 2 inches here. Just put your ruler down and then check everything to make sure that it all looks fine. Then trim your other 2 edges. For the most part, you're just trimming off the nubs there. Now trim all of your flying geese units the same way. In step 3, we piece the flying geese units together to make the side units. We start with the light at the top, the medium, then the dark. Oops. And sew these together and do 4 of these. We have all of our units done. Now we'll just lay them out on the proppet board. We'll sew the top units together, the middle and the bottom. Press the seams and then sew the rows together. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos.